Yeah, perfect. Yeah, let's go live.
Okay, we are live to the Successful Bookkeeper Australia. We're having some fun tech issues here, but we're getting it all sorted. I am so excited to welcome our guest today. It's such a privilege to have you on Power Hour today, Michael Palmer. You've been helping bookkeepers grow their businesses for over 12 years now. You've got a hugely successful podcast with over 16 followers worldwide, with worldwide listeners. You've interviewed some of the top names in our industry, in the bookkeeping industry. People like Michael Gerber, the guru of not only business, but obviously bookkeeping business. We've got the E-Myth bookkeeper, which is amazing. You've interviewed the guru of Profit First, obviously the co-founder, Michael Michalowicz, and obviously the Ron Baker and Mark Wickersham from Value Pricing. I am so excited to be able to interview today, Michael, the guru interviewer himself. So welcome to the Successful Bookkeeper Australia Power Hour.
Great to be here. And, typically I'm the one asking the question, so I'm going to be very uncomfortable with this.
I'm so excited. I did give you a bit of a heads up with some of the questions, but I've added some, so it's going to shake it up a little bit, Michael. So listen, before we get stuck into the kind of business of the questions, I want to know a little bit about the Michael Palmer, the person. So I want to get sort of into a little bit of understanding what makes Michael Palmer tick. So some of the questions I'd like to ask is, what do you do for fun, Michael? What is it like around sport or cooking, or what are the sort of fun things that you do in your life?
Yeah, so what do I do for fun? I do a lot. I'm eclectic when it comes to a lot of things. So like I have a lot of things that I like to do, but I have a young family. So that tweaks a little bit in terms of what I do with what I do for fun is typically what my kids now are doing for fun, because I have a 3, almost 4-year-old daughter and 6 turning 7 this week son. And so that it's a young family, and I'm sure many people who are watching this, if you have families, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it becomes very much about them, which is a ton of fun anyway. So I love watching them play sports. I love watching them play around the house and being involved in all of that. So that takes up a ton of my time when I'm not working, is typically with my kids right now. When I do have time for myself, I spend a lot of time in the garage. And fortunately, my son loves to go in the garage. In fact, if he didn't, I'd never see the garage, quite frankly. But I'm restoring a 1949 Ford truck. And so it's been a project that has been going on since I was 14 years old. I've worked on this truck with my father when I was starting at 13, 14 years old before I could drive. It was his truck. Before I was born, he owned that truck. So this truck's been in the family for over 50 years. And it's been worked on. It's like since I was like 5 or 6 when this truck was on the road, and it's never been back on the road. It's been in a constant progress for 35 years, almost 36 years. So my dad passed away about 6 years now ago. And we loved working on it. We loved talking about it. But as I left high school, I didn't get the chance to work on it all that much. My dad did a little bit, but we always talked about all the time, talking about, when we'll work on that truck and we'll get it on the road. And the day never came. And so when he passed away, I made it a focus and priority to get it finished and on the road. And I've made a lot of progress, but then kids come along and, it's like, so fortunately my son is involved, but I really enjoy it. And it's a complete polar opposite to the work that I do during the day, which is much more online and working with people. This is me working with my hands and a lot of the times in solitude. That's what I get a lot of value. And I turn on the 80s music in the garage and I relive my youthful years, which I love so much. Yeah. So I love it. Yeah.
And some nice thinking time as well about, probably you come up with a lot of your ideas from that time where you've got by yourself.
Yeah, it's I would almost say that I don't think about work all that much when I'm in there, and that's maybe why it's good that the ideas for me wherever I get it. My number one idea generating place is either walking or running, or
Mhm.
in the shower.
Yeah,
When I'm in
me
the shower now in Australia,
too.
that's not a good thing. I was a
Yeah.
bad Australian when I lived in Australia. It was like 3-minute showers, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I
Not enough
know.
time. But here in Canada, where we have lots of water, I take long showers in the morning, wake up, take my time, and I'm thinking in the shower. Yeah, I come up with
Yeah,
really great ideas. Well, not all great ideas, but I come up with ideas in the shower.
yeah,
Many of those ideas show up in the successful bookkeeper community or in pure bookkeeping. Ideas of what we can do to be valuable, and so when I'm in the garage, I'm just literally immersed into the work and back in my youth, and it's a good escape for me.
yeah, that's nice. Oh, good insight. Thank you for that, Michael. So this question's interesting. Tell me something about your journey that surprised you that your professional development couldn't have prepared you for.
Something that surprised me that my professional development couldn't have prepared me for would be,
So something where you had to think on your feet to adjust.
that's a tough one because, the I didn't value my education until I actually got practical experience.
Mm,
So it was always amazing to me as I went through my education in university and we did all these things, and all of it was very theoretical. Well, not mostly, it was all theoretical to a certain degree. And I was fortunate that in school, I did do lots of entrepreneurial things. I ran a couple of companies when I was in university, and I would apply some of those things outside of school. But I think what surprised me was how much of what we learn in school is not necessarily what we need out there in the world. And that was surprising. Yet there is so much of what we learn that goes, it's like a piece of the puzzle. There's these
mm,
pieces, but they're useless without the other pieces of the puzzle, which is out there in the world where we're constantly learning. And then in my career, working for organizations like Dun and Bradstreet and Salesforce.com,
yeah.
that's where really it was amazing how much I learned there. And I would say those places are where I got my best education for the work that I do today.
Okay, nice. Excellent. That's a good answer. And would you say that, like, with the things that you're not prepared for, do you use your instinct or your gut, or do you pull on some of those sort of more practical sort of things that you've learnt from Dun& Bradstreet and from Salesforce? Or is it more sort of a practical approach that you use?
I would say I do a couple of things. Number one is leverage the people that I know. So if it's something that I don't know, or I see somebody else that they have an expertise, I'll ask for help. The other is, this is another remarkable. I'm surprised and awed by this just about every day when I actually stop and think about it, is
Mm,
how much information is available at our fingertips with YouTube. And I'll just use YouTube as an example. Is and did I lose camera? Do we still have camera?
we're still going. You're good.
Good. Okay, something happened there, and I think I saw my some screen popped up on my
All good. We're all
computer. So we're
good.
all good. Perfect.
Yeah.
And so YouTube, from even working in the garage, like working on the truck and learning, like
Mm,
I'm doing sophisticated metalwork, like using a TIG welder and a MIG welder, and figuring out all of
yeah.
the chassis and the work that needs to be done. Like I learn all of it on YouTube. We went through the pandemic, and I spent a lot of time in the first year of the pandemic. I spent a lot of time in the garage because we were really locked down and we
Yeah.
weren't going anywhere. So I had a lot of time that it was like, okay, well, our family's at home. Matthew and I were in the garage, and so no other external people around to help me. And it was YouTube. So amazing amount of information on YouTube to learn and build up my skill and go, well, how am I going to do that? Go look at a few different videos and then go at that. So I would say most of my learning today is done on YouTube, where it's like around business. If it's something regarding anything in life, I go to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm the same, Michael. It's what I start my day with in the morning. It's to get me going in whatever it is that I think that's important for the day. I jump on YouTube and start educating myself, even if it's for just 10 or 15 minutes every morning. There's so many sort of things that topics and gurus out there that you can learn from just at your fingertips, which is awesome. So
that's right. Now the other piece to that, though, I would say, is there's all the information and knowledge. Where I think I've needed help along the way as coaches. So I've had many different coaches, whether it was if I was doing sport or if it was to do with business and also relationships. So one of the most important things in my life right now is relationships that I have with my organization, relationships with my wife and my children. I have a coach who coaches me in relationship, and it can be regarding business, it can be regarding my personal life, but those are things I can get information about it, I can have insights about it, but to have a conversation with somebody about what's going on and how I'm thinking about resolving it or solving it, I'd say that's the other very important piece that I didn't discover really, really well until I was well into my 30s, was having like a very close advisor, call it a coach or a mentor. And that for me has made a massive difference, is to have someone who's an expert in that area that I need help with. And that has been very valuable for learning and succeeding along the way.
it's really interesting you say that, because I've had, as you know, I've had coaches on and off. My first coach was when I was 22 in our furniture business. And then like that made such a profound difference on our life. Like we literally just changed our life altogether with that coach. And then, on and off, I've coached coaches, for Action Coach, and I've been around coaching forever. But I remember about 5 years ago, I just gave up thinking like, I feel like I need a coach all the time. Like I need somebody that's got my back and that says, that's pointing me in the right direction, but also just reassuring me about the thoughts that I have, those thoughts that we have in the shower about the ideas that we have, is like to bounce ideas off people. I made a conscious decision about 5 years ago, whatever it is about having somebody there constantly, whether it's weekly or fortnightly, and paying them to do that. I've just given up that. I want that till the day I die. It's just, I don't feel like I would be halfway as satisfied with my life of where I'm at right now without having the coaches in my life that I've had. And it doesn't have to be the same coach. It's just, as you say, pulling in the coaches that are helping you with the areas that you need in your life for that moment. It just, it's powerful, isn't it?
It's priceless.
Yeah.
It's priceless. Yes.
Okay, so let's get down into the nitty gritty. If there were three personal attributes you see in successful bookkeepers that the rest of us could work on to build those skills if we haven't got them already, what would they be? So personal attributes.
Yes, this is a good one because I'm very clear, having interviewed hundreds and hundreds of bookkeepers. We have episodes. We're almost, I think, this summer. I should speak in months because your summer and winter is different. But this June, I think we'll hit our 300th episode of the Successful Bookkeeper. Now, all of those have not been bookkeepers, but I would say 90% of them are. And also through my work, I've been working with bookkeepers specifically for over a decade, since 2010. And that started in Australia, actually, working with Australian bookkeepers. And so it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, over 1,000 bookkeepers and conversations, thousands probably conversations over the last little more than a decade. And what's interesting is what I'm going to say is not necessarily specific to the industry of bookkeepers. It's specific to business owners who come from a technical background, that they did something, that they worked at something, and then they went into business. In the E-Myth, they call it a technician. Mm-hmm. And I would say that these characteristics are universal, but yet it's important that every single bookkeeper consider these things and figure out how to leverage them to improve their lot in life. Their, and what's the point, right? Is to have more freedom, more fun, design the life of your dreams, right? And so that's where you're going. And you use your business as a vessel to have the life of your dreams. That's what for me, that's what a successful business provides is actually more choices, more freedoms, right, in your life. So what are the characteristics? Number one is your mindset. Your mindset is any human being, the older we get, the more set our mindset is. It's just, there's examples in personal development of you put a flea, a flea will jump 6 feet high, but if you put a flea that has in a box or a glass box that has a top on it, a glass lid, it will jump and it'll hit the glass. And you hit the glass a few times and you're like, the flea will not jump. It won't hit the glass. Take the glass off. Guess what? That flea never jumps higher than the glass. It remembers and it sets in its mind that that's what's possible. It's not possible for me to now jump 6 feet high. It's only possible for me to jump 3 feet high. Well, in our life as human beings, think of all of the glass lids that have been placed over top of our heads that have us not jumping to our full potential. So, and in order to interrupt that limited potential, their work needs to be done, because you don't even know, like most people can't tell that they can't see the glass, don't know that the glass exists, don't know that they stopped jumping over the 4 feet or whatever it is. And so that's where, again, coaches and people, maybe people in your life, people would think, oh, I get to ask my friend. Your friends don't know. Your family doesn't know. They're afraid. They have conflicting views and also conflicting interests in terms of how high you should be jumping, and think about it, me as a parent, right? What am I always doing to my kids? Stop jumping. Don't fall off the thing, be careful. Don't run out of the road. I'm trying to keep them alive. I have conflicting interests, right? Whereas a sports coach would be jump higher, right? Go faster, right? Get some bruises, scrape your arm, figure it out, right? Lose, win, all these different things that a coach would say to my son or daughter versus what I would say. It's conflicting. So that's one of the biggest things in business, is because you think you want to go somewhere, and I bet your automatic response is it's not possible. It's not going to work. Let's talk about pricing, raising your price. It's like they won't accept, they'll fire me. They'll, all of these different negative limiting beliefs. And so how can you work on that? Well, if you had a coach, you would probably be working on it. If you were in a community of other bookkeepers, so one of the most valuable things that our pure bookkeeping licensees always tell us about is that the community is the most valuable piece. Why? Because they see other people jumping beyond the glass. Wait a second, you see somebody jumping beyond the glass enough, you start jumping again and trying, right? So if you don't have those communities, then the way to do that would be to understand, to look at your goals and to say, this is where I want to go. What are the things I want to do? Am I doing those things? And then pick one and do something that you think is not possible or that you think might have a negative consequence, and test it. Simply test it. So number one is the mindset, and around that is the limiting beliefs that we have. Number two, as technicians and bookkeepers come as technicians. They are not necessarily thinking about running a business. They're thinking about the technical aspects of doing the work. It's like, I'm going to do the work and I got to do the work. And it's quicksand. Doing the work, you love doing the work as a technician. That's why you do the work, right? If you started bookkeeping and you hated it, you probably would have never progressed through to owning a bookkeeping business. You would have stopped long ago. So you love the work that you do. Now you're in business and you've got to stop. You've got to stop doing the work that you love and that you're great at. Why? Because the business needs the other things from you. It needs management. It needs entrepreneurship. And again, these are concepts you could read about in E-Myth Bookkeeper, but you need to do other things. You need to learn how to build a sales process. You need to figure out the marketing. You need to figure out the human resources. You need to figure out how the finances and the pricing and all of that stuff's going to work. And so if you're being, those are difficult, daunting things to do in your business, but what's happening is you're being pulled into the work, which is quicksand, and you love it. And it's like, but I've got to do the work. I've got to figure out the thing. I've got to make this bit done. And so as your business grows, guess what happens? You try to stop doing it, but then something comes up and you get pulled back into it. So that mindset of the technician and the risk is that if you don't break through of that and realize that you're not your business and your business is not you, and your business demands things of you, that you work for your business, right? You are an employee of your business. If you can get to that mindset and do what's right for the business, your business will be built and designed in a way that will scale and actually start to return to you the things that you want from it, which is more value, more money, more income, and those sorts of things, right? So I'd say inside of that is a whole bunch of characteristics, but it's to pay attention to the work that you're doing. And are you doing the work that is the most valuable piece of a business? Because if you're doing the work, it's not. Doing the work of the bookkeeper in a bookkeeping business is not the highest value work. There's other and really important things to do. Because if it was the most important thing, then everybody'd have a bookkeeping business and they'd all be very successful bookkeeping businesses, but that's not the case. The most successful, highest growing, fastest growing bookkeeping businesses are ones that were able to get their hands off the tools, and ones that have systems and process for their staff to follow, predictable, and create a predictable system inside the business. And then they work on the really important pieces of that business. Now, I think I've got two. That's one, and that's two, the technician aspect. And then the third would be time management, right? Is people let time manage them instead of them managing time. It's managing the time that you have. Everyone has 24 hours a day. Billionaires have 24 hours a day. Poor people have 24 hours a day. Every single person on the planet only has 24 hours a day. And you got to ask yourself, it's like, what is it about those other people that have them succeeding more quickly than the rest of us, right? It comes down to how they manage their time, what they do in that time. That talks a little bit about that technician aspect, but also just from the simple fact of really finding what is taking your time, what are the things that you're working on, and are you delegating things, the right things? Are you creating an environment where you can delegate and actually remove yourself from that aspect so that you can focus on other things in the business? So lots of great resources on YouTube. And, I know there's a couple of videos on the Successful Bookkeeper YouTube channel around productivity. One comes to mind is Jessica Fox, talks a lot about, and she really breaks it down into something very simple that she does, which is time blocking. And so I would say that that's a really, really important one, because if you can manage your time, well, you can work on those other two with you, the more time that you have, more valuable use of your time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So mindset, break through the technician sort of thinking and manage your time. And I've always done this, Michael. I'll look at somebody else, anything I've done in my life, I'll look at if somebody else can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it. And I don't know, you may know who quoted this. Don't wish that it were easier, wish you were better. So when you look at somebody, there was a quote from somebody, I don't know who it was, but when you look at somebody and you go, you know what, we're so lucky because we've got so many examples, Debbie Roberts being one of them, Katrina Arsman, and in pure bookkeeping, there's so many examples of people that have done this. It's like, if they've figured it out, that's their mindset. It's how they've approached it. And I'm sure for all of us that have scaled black belt bookkeeping businesses, it certainly didn't happen straight away for me. It's like, well, you've got to kind of figure out, and you take a few left turns and a few right turns, and you go, well, okay, what am I doing that's wrong here that I need to fix? And that's your mindset. It's finding out ways that we can actually break through to get that. And certainly we've all got those same 24 hours in the day. How we put that together is really what the outcome is, what our life is like right now is the decisions that we've made previously. And we can change that slowly, right?
We can, absolutely. We can, all of those things can be improved, and it comes from being committed. to something. I talk about the five factors or steps or stages of success. The number one being burning desire, is having a burning desire for something. It's that deep down burning desire to have something, achieve something. If you have that, that's really the foundational step or stage that's super important. The next is belief. Belief that what you have that burning desire for is actually possible. Because if you don't think it's possible, you're like, I can't jump past that glass, right? I can't jump. I can only jump forward. If you do not believe it's possible, then you will not take the actions. You will not do it. It's just you're stopped at that stage. And that is a big one, as we've talked about already, is the limiting beliefs. The next is commitment. You've got to commit to it. 10 out of 10 commitment. 10 out of 10 commitment to actually achieving it. Focus. Having the focus on the specific actions that are in line with the outcomes that you want to create, that burning desire. If you want to climb a mountain and you're figuring out how to swim, you're working on the wrong things, right? So focus on the right actions and then take the actions, right? So you got to know what the actions are, and then you got to do the work, right? I always say to my wife when she's like, oh, you're going back out to the garage, you know what I say to her? That truck is not going to build itself. Right. I say it to lots of bookkeepers. I say it to our own business. It's like, this business isn't going to build itself. Your bookkeeping business isn't going to build itself. You've got to figure it out. You're the only one. No one else is going to come along and say, oh, I want to build you your dream business. No, that's you that has to do that. So some interesting concepts, very simple, 5. But if you look at those and ask yourself, do I have a burning desire? Do I believe that this is possible? Do I have the commitment? Do I have focus? Am I focusing? And am I taking the right actions, right? Then, that's a good gauge and acid test for, are you on the right track?
Yeah, they're great, Michael. I know one of the things I talk about is that okay is the enemy of ideal, because unless you've got that really burning desire to get what you want, and I think all of us are guilty of going, you know what, it's okay. It's not too bad. Like we're paying the bills. It's not too bad. We're happy. But then, to really get strong about that burning desire about, I want this like yesterday, and put in place and be courageous around the goals that you set for yourself and go, I want ideal. And that's, I talk about ideal income, freedom and scale. And that's that's hard. If you want to push for something that's ideal, you've got to push through a fair bit of fear. And I, myself included, like I've had to push through a whole bunch of fear to get, to push through to get the things that I've been wanting all my life. Okay, I've got another question. Specifically to the bookkeeping industry, what are the 3 things bookkeepers shouldn't do when starting their own firm? So you would have seen a lot of people start and they've made mistakes for years and years. And sometimes these mistakes go for 6, 12 months. Sometimes they go for 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of things. And, it's a tough question because there's some mistakes that are really important to make so that you never do them again. It's one of those things that's okay to make mistakes. Like that's nobody wants to make the mistakes, but some of that, what makes you great, what makes any of us great is the mistakes that we've made. So maybe a mistake that I would say that so many make is they don't make enough mistakes in actually going out and testing, because we have like if you go to Pure Bookkeeping and look for the 10 mistakes bookkeepers make in business, right? If you read that and if you said, okay, well, I don't want to make these mistakes, but you did the opposite of that, you'd still make a bunch of mistakes, but they'd be higher level mistakes. You'd be closer to success if you just took bigger, bolder, rapid actions versus thinking about it too often. So perhaps one of the things would be procrastination, or not procrastination from the sense but because sometimes it's a little bit different. It's more of that like fear to do something that it's like, I really should try this, but I'm afraid to do it. I'm afraid that I might fail. that would be maybe the biggest mistake. But then again, sometimes it's like you got to listen to your intuition. You know, I think females have, and I've read this and I believe it. I believe females have a stronger relationship with their intuition. And many of the people in this industry are female, is to listen to your intuition, not your fear, right? Is that what's it saying, and being in tune with that can lead you to the right things to do. But let's talk about some of the actual mistakes that we say, we talk about all the time, right? Is putting up with bad clients. Okay, now I could use a different, more colorful word. PETA, right? The PETA clients, right? That's not so colorful, but I think Debbie Roberts, I heard her say one day, is the mice and the rats and the mice. Yeah. And that's interesting, rats and mice, but it's small little squeaky, 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 or like rats. Who wants a rat? I mean, a rat of a client. Nobody wants a rat, but you all have them. Everybody does, but you hold on to them for too long. You think that you need them. That's again, it's a mistake, but yet hopefully you learn something from it. And it's often comes back to your own self-worth and the value that you see in yourself, why you put up with this stuff. Don't ever put up with abusive clients. I mean, the sooner you can get closer to saying absolutely no, like drawing lines, like really knowing what is the line, communicating about that to your clients, about what the line is, and standing up for yourself, standing up for your staff, and not accepting anything. I use this line all the time. You get in life what you tolerate. So if you're tolerating certain things in your life, you shouldn't be, you're just going to keep getting them. Just keep getting them. And we all do it in different areas of our life, but that's something to know. So around clients, pricing, okay? Pricing, I've seen, there's very few bookkeepers that get pricing right out of the gate. You need help. You need help. You need to work with people who can help you, who can say and encourage you and talk you off the ledge and get you to take the actions that you're going to need to do to increase what you charge. Because you came from a technician's role, likely you have grown up in this whole hourly world, like many of us in the Western world, is that, it's like money for time. And it's hard to go and talk about value, and it's hard to go, but I only got paid like $15 an hour to do that. I spent a whole hour and I got $15, and now I could do an hour and get charged $1,000. That's crazy. That's obscene, right? But it's what happens in the world, and it's what's needed in order to build a business where you have the resources to deliver the amazing service that you want to deliver. You cannot deliver an amazing service if you don't have a margin, or a very strong margin in your business. So pricing is huge. The sooner you get it improved or fixed and progressively, it's not like you ever fix it completely. You're always constantly improving it. But think about it, it's no different than investment. 25 years ago was the best time to plant an oak tree. Second best time today. So the sooner you get onto your pricing and solve that, the more money it's going to give you, the more leverage it's going to give, and it's compounding. It is absolutely compounding. So those are, and the other bit is I see people is like they think the market is limited, right? There's not enough customers. There's not enough potential out there. There's so much potential. It's the opposite. There's too much opportunity out there. So believing that, being able to see that, you'll be able to see the opportunities and go say no to the bad clients, say yes to the good ones. And there's a lot of work to do to figure that out for yourself. But if you do that work, you're going to end up with a stronger foundation of business, better clients, better pricing. Okay. And then that leads you into a better place for your business. Hopefully
I love that. I love that. And your answer about, you need to make mistakes to learn. And I love that, Michael. The thing that I think is we need to make the mistakes fast. So make them, make them, fail fast, so you can learn from those to move on quickly. So I think what one of the things I learned from Matt Church at Thought Leaders Business School is that we make a mistake, or we put something out to the world, like we hold an event or we do something and no one turns up or no one registers, and we sort of carry away, and that we could carry away for 2, 3, 4 years and go, oh, no, I won't try that again. That was a bit embarrassing. And so what he taught at Thought Leaders is like, okay, that didn't work. Next. I can just treat it like a process, fail fast, move forward. And again, that's what, having people like Successful Bookkeeper Australia to tap into, and also Pure Bookkeeping, and having a coach there to remind you that it's okay. Failing is all right. You can move on from that. The other thing I love that you spoke about is there's plenty of work out there. And a thing that I learned years ago from Brad Sugars when I was coaching his business coaches was the abundance mentality. Mm. And I'd never heard of that before. Like, what's the abundance mentality? That's enough for everyone. It's enough, everything. There's enough business. There's enough for everyone. If you want it bad enough and you're willing to go out there and do the work, there is enough for everyone. And there's enough good ones. There's enough A-class clients out there for all of us. We don't have to put up with those, C and D. So awesome advice. Thank you so much. You've interviewed over 291 people, or you're saying it's coming up to 300 soon.
300, yes. Yeah.
In the bookkeeping industry. Based on what you've learned through all these interviews, I mean, I know, we've had a few interviews ourselves, and I know you've sort of talked beforehand to, we sort of talk about our thinking before we actually go on air and you record and things like that. So it's not just those interviews. I mean, you've got into the psyche of a lot of people in our industry. What do you think, based on all that, what do you think it takes to build a black belt bookkeeping business? So up, that's 600 to $1 million turnover. What from all those interviews, what do you think it takes?
It takes massive action.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's massive action and the right actions. I mean, if it's all, to use your example of building a black belt business, and what, maybe we'll say what a black belt business is. We have a pricing, a business model chart that shows you the roadmap of growing your business. And we use the metaphor of martial arts in that, white belts do certain things at a white belt, right? And if you make a black belt move as a white belt, that can be a bad choice, right? There's certain things you should do first, build the foundation. We talked a little bit about those things today, but as you go through the different belts, you should be doing different things. And it's like a black belt business is like 600,000 plus turnover in your business. And so to get there is taking massive action, putting systems in place so that you can scale, right? Because it'd be difficult to just be a solo practice and do 600,000. Not impossible, but it'd be a different story. It'd be a very interesting business model. I haven't met that person yet, but I hope I do. But it'd be a bit tight. I won't say it's impossible, but you're going to need staff. You're going to need team. You need marketing in place and the right pricing and all the things we've been talking about. But the people who actually get there, all of those things that they do, those black belts do, they're all there. There's no rocket science involved. It is very straightforward business principles, but they take massive action and they do a lot of things we've talked about. They're able to delegate. They're able to not get into the weeds of the work, right? And leave it to the people who are assigned those roles and to do that work. I'll give you an example of we see non-bookkeeping, non-accountant business owners start a bookkeeping business and go from 0 to $1 million in 18 months. 0 to $1 million in 18 months. Now, why? Because they're applying practices of business. They're applying systems. They're applying documented things. You went and built a black belt business because you followed and implemented a system that was built for bookkeepers to run their business like a system, the pure bookkeeping system. You implemented that system with massive action, and that's what you ended up with. It took a lot of work. You did different things. You had made mistakes. You had, I'm sure, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears along the way, but you kept getting up. You kept doing it. You kept asking for help, and you found a way. You had a burning desire. You believed it was possible. You probably didn't know enough to, to not believe it.
I
And
think that was
right,
it.
that's probably some of it, right? We know too much. That's one of the things. Going back to school, coming out of school, I was fearful of being in business for myself, right?
Yeah.
They teach you all the things that are going to go wrong, and that can be a weakness, right? So, but you committed, you focused on the right things, and you took the action, and you asked for a lot of help, and you got that help. So, that's sort of in a nutshell. There's other characteristics, and when I think of people who have built black belt businesses, the other piece is they've been in a community. Obviously, I've seen a lot of pure bookkeeping licensees do that, but they've got other supports in their life that help them. Having a business partner can be the worst thing on the planet, but it can also be one of the best, right? Is that you can divide and conquer and play to the right suits. The problem with a relationship, like any relationship, partnership, marriage, it's choosing the right partner. And I think people who get into partnerships often don't, and think that it's not like a relationship, it's not like a marriage, but it's very much like that. So you've got to make sure you make the right choices. But saying that, I've seen some very successful partnerships where they both focus on their strengths and they're able to get further faster. Now, at the end of the day, if you're a partner, you're splitting half of it. So you would want to do that math. Is it worth having that partner? But some people might not be able to make it without a really solid partner. So I hopefully that's clear and makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, the biggest thing the biggest blocker for me with scaling a black belt bookkeeping business was like, I had to get over my fear, Michael. I was really, really fearful. And my fear was that I didn't know anything about the industry. And so when I'd pull up in front of an accountant's office, it's like, how am I going to have a conversation? And accountants can be quite intimidating. And, I'd try to go to the biggest accounting firms to meet with them. So I was courageous in a way, but so fearful in so many other ways. And I really realized that it's the recipe for any business is to identify what that fear is and go deep into that. Watch the YouTube videos, read the books, get a coach, figure out what that fear is, what the block is to help you through it. Because once you can conquer that fear, the sky's your limit. Honestly, it's amazing once you sort of push through fear, I reckon.
Yeah. And I would say for anyone that's listening to this now or in the future, is get onto the Successful Book, come back to this Facebook group and bring your fear to Sharon. That's what this environment is for, is to have people express those things and be in this group environment and be able to tackle some of those challenges in your life. And I guarantee you'll have breakthroughs in those areas, but they're not going to get broken through as quickly by yourself at home, sitting in front of your computer.
No way. And it kind of builds on itself when you're at home by yourself in your office. It's like, you've got to have some sort of outlet to hear what and they say the two most powerful words are me too. Like, yeah, I feel that too. As soon as somebody else has gone through it, it's like, oh,
right.
I'm not abnormal. That's normal.
That's right.
Okay. My next question for you is, what is your biggest pet peeve in our industry? What bugs you?
Bugs me. I would say let's see, what would you call them? False prophets. People who claim to know how to help other bookkeepers but don't, take a lot of money from them and leave them with nothing, very little value. Now, I will say that even that is a valuable lesson for people to learn. It's just unfortunate that over my years, I've heard some really bad doozies where we're not talking about a couple $1,000s. We're talking 20, 30, 40, $50,000 mistakes, either from someone who claims they know marketing, right? Oh, I can get you clients, all this good stuff, like tens and thousands of dollars spent on stuff like that. There's a lot of people out there that just are not able to do or deliver those. So that's a pet peeve, and it's always unfortunate because something like that can leave a massive dent in your ability to invest in other things and grow the business. So I'd say in this industry, That's kind of a universal one that's in every single industry. There's people who prey on people who desire something. So it's one of the things to keep your eyes open for, is that when we want something really bad, in the sales industry, they call it happy ears. You hear the things that make you happy, and you think that it's going in a certain direction, but you're not listening fully to what's really going on. You're not looking clearly. Happy eyes, happy ears. You're not looking for the real key things that you need to be looking at and doing your due diligence, right? And so those would be some important things to think about.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah. The other thing is, there's a lot of language out in the industry where, bookkeepers are going to be out of work. Automation is going to take away from. These are marketing messages somewhere that were created, or headline grabbers. I think it's sad because it has other younger people not getting into the industry because of this fear. And I mean, I've only seen there become more work for bookkeepers in the last decade. It only gets more important. There's automation coming out. There's all sorts of stuff to replace some of the things that bookkeepers do. But business owners are living in a more and more complex environment, more regulations, more compliance things that need to be done, more sophistication in the way that the world works, money coming from all different places. There's cryptocurrencies coming. I mean, this, at the end of the day, the government is not going to say, oh, we don't really care about that information. It'll all just figure out properly. No, you need to have information, financial information and knowledge, and it has to be managed and understood by somebody. A business owner can't be the oracle and know all things. You need somebody in the business that's advising the business owner. And guess what? People don't realize it. The bookkeeper is the one. They are the Obi-Wan. They're the Yoda for business owners. Yeah. The accountant's not doing it. Accountants are super busy. They see them now and then. Bookkeepers are the ones that are on the deck, on the court with the business owner, playing the game with them, and know a lot about their business, about their finances, and what's going on in the business, and how all that money is working, and where it's coming and where it's going. That's super valuable. That's not going away.
Yeah, I love it. It was going to be one of my questions about what your thoughts or feelings were about AI and where the industry is headed. How do we gear ourselves up for that? I'm a bookkeeper out there wanting to grow my business, knowing that there's all this artificial intelligence happening that, is going to take over a lot of the compliance work. What would your suggestion be as a first step, or what to do over the coming year or so to get ready for this?
So many will not do what I'm going to say, because they are laggards, and that's not a bad thing. That's who you are. It's okay. It's like you will embrace things later on after other people have figured things out. We talked about this I think we were talking about it on a podcast or something recently, about people who embrace, I think it was a podcast episode. Yeah. People embrace technology. Here's the thing, embrace the technology, learn about it, don't fear it. It's miraculous and powerful, and there's lots of cool things going on in artificial intelligence, machine learning, automations, different automations. Embrace it, learn about it. And you will find that there's a lot of very valuable tools that you can be used to do the job that you do today. But it's like, if we think of it this way, my dad was an electrician, and his tool belt was on his waist, and he had 2 pouches, and there was very specific tools in that pouch to do his job, right? He had other bigger tools and things, but he always had those tools, right? Bookkeepers have had certain tools as well. If we looked at what those tools were, the tools have just changed, but the outcome, we still need to wire the house. We need to bring the things together. The bookkeeping still needs to be done. It's just changing somewhat, and in fact, probably becoming more and more valuable, but the tools are changing. So figure out what those new tools are, use them to your advantage now, and evolve with them. They will evolve dramatically over the next decade to multiple decades. We'll all be retired by then probably, and looking and going, wow, don't understand any of it. But embrace it. And if anyone's watching this that's younger, right, is cryptocurrency and what's going on there, that's an area to be paying attention to, because it's shockingly getting more and more mainstream. There's big organizations talking about it. Apple, Microsoft, big investors. They're getting involved. Well, that money is being exchanged. It needs to be understood. There's going to be a reckoning of governments wanting to know about it and making sure that businesses are managing it correctly. So lots of opportunity to be learning, and you can do that learning. Again, the accounting softwares have lots of great conferences, obviously YouTube, but make sure you go and browse. If you do get to these events, browse the sponsored booths, like the partners that sponsor, browse them, understand what they're doing. We're launching a new series for the Successful Bookkeeper podcast, where we're going to have special edition Thursdays. So we release on a Tuesday, which would be Wednesday in Australia. And on Thursdays, we're going to have, every now and then, we're going to have a special edition where we have a partner that's sharing the technology and how it works and how it's helping. Again, that could be a valuable resource for you to learn what's going on in the industry, what's cutting edge, what are the tools that can help me do my job better. You know, it used to be a screwdriver. Now maybe it's some sort of zappy thing for the electricians.
Yeah,
I don't think electricians tools have changed all that much, but anyways, my analogy.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic advice. And I guess off the back of that, I wanted to ask you, from an education point of view, what book are you reading right now? And what are the top 3 books you would suggest to help embrace this kind of change with working through fear, embracing AI, the things like that?
Yes, it's a great question. Well, you know, the books that I've been reading, I've been reading science fiction, which is interesting enough, is part of the, you know, I think it's nice to read a book that, I think it's good to do things that are not business related, but there is a relationship to business. And it's actually, I was reading the book series Dune, which is one of the very first science fiction books. And it's amazing what's interesting about that book is a lot of what we see in the world, what came up the thinking originated in these books, right? Even this book was written in 1965, I think. And FaceTime is in the book. There's like different technologies that were mentioned in those books, and actually the naming of it probably came from those books. So it's just interesting to see how knowledge transforms and mutates and goes all over the place. But you know, you just never know where it's going to go. So I think it's important to read things that open your mind, have you think differently about something, and you get enjoyment from it also. But in terms of business books, I mean, I wrote the Successful Bookkeeper. This is plug for this book. This is a Successful Bookkeeper. We give away this book for free, pay a little bit of shipping, and you get the book. That book is the story of Debbie Roberts and her journey from being a bookkeeper employee to building a business of 12 employees, which is a remarkable journey. And it's from my perspective of interviewing the people that helped her along the way, the thinking that she went through, how she developed the systems and processes in her business. You know, very valuable book. If you haven't read E-Myth, read the E-Myth Bookkeeper. Those are 2 really great books specific to this industry. And you know, those would be some big ones. I mean, I've read a lot of books, so it's hard to nail down like business books. So, but I will give you one that's really, really powerful if I can remember the name of it. Is the I'll think of it here, but it's the art. It's written. I'll find it. It's about productivity, and it's written by a writer. Actually, I think it's the art of. I'll think of it.
Okay. While you're thinking of it, is there another book in the pipeline for you, and what would it be about?
Oh boy, is there another book in the pipeline? You know, I would say I don't feel called to write another book. I think what I'm really excited about is all of the content that we're building, immersive digital content that we're building for the Successful Bookkeeper community. So the community that we've built, and it's a free community that you can go to community.thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com and get a free account. You go sign up through thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com and you'll find your way there. But we're constantly putting in new courses. We run the Successful Bookkeeper Summit, where I bring together lots of experts, people that are writing their books and they're doing their content and have written books, the very best in the industry, what I like to call bookkeeper gold. I am bringing those people together, and then we're putting all that content into our learning platform and building that community. So it's really, I'm very focused right now on building the tools and environment to have our community thrive with all of this wonderful stuff and wonderful technology that we have available to us. That's where my focus has been. So to be thinking about writing a book, yeah, no, it's more so I'm putting all the pieces that might go into a book into live interactive digital content.
Yeah, you've done an enormous amount of work towards this, and it's all very exciting, the sort of stuff that we've got access to that you're putting together. I know that you've worked tirelessly to get all this stuff in it, the things like the workshop a few weeks ago and the summit and what have you, bringing all this gold to us is really, really powerful and helpful for building bookkeeping businesses. My last question to you is, what legacy do you want to leave, Michael Palmer?
No, for me, it's around small business is making a difference in the lives of small business owners. And, it's the pleasure that I get is from working in this industry with bookkeepers, is that when my father was running a small business and businesses throughout his life, he did not have a great bookkeeper. He had an accountant, but he did not have a bookkeeper, and he relied on my mother at times to do the work. And she's not a bookkeeper and doesn't have the characteristics or even desire to do any of that work. And it caused a lot of stress on our family throughout the years. And so for me, helping bookkeepers help people like my dad, it brings me to tears sometimes to think about it. And so for me, when I hope that I make an impact in this industry that enables this industry to thrive, to raise its profile in the world, such that bookkeepers are more and more and more valued, that people actually realize and discover. It's like, wait a second, the bookkeeper is one of the most valuable pieces in my business. I know it. A lot of successful business owners know it, but there's a lot that don't. And so if I spend the rest of my career building an environment and building a community that helps more business owners like my dad be able to do the work that they're good at and have their business give back what they truly want, be able to provide for their family, I'll be a happy person to know that I've done that.
Yeah, I love that. And it's always that whole thing about, I've heard people and coaches over the years say, you've really got to get out of your own way to do what you were born to do. And the fear and the sheer work and all the other things that happen in life to stop you from doing that, you've got to really identify and go deep into that to allow us to do this. And you're certainly making a massive, massive difference to bookkeepers across the world. And we're all very, very grateful for you living fully expressed and doing what you're meant to be doing, because you're certainly making a difference in many of our lives, including mine, Michael. You've really encouraged me over the years to do what I do. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful that you've said yes to being interviewed on Power Hour, and I hope that you will say yes again in the future. I'm really grateful for your time today. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for the work that you do, Sharon. And you're just such a joy to be around, to work with, and over the years it's been fantastic. And so it's, I just know it's no shock to me that you're wildly successful in mentoring and coaching bookkeepers, because you've been wildly successful in mentoring so many coaches and business owners in your career. So it's great to be in the same game with you and helping this community and doing it on a global level.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Michael. I really, really
you.
appreciate it. Okay, you take care and sweet dreams. It's late at night there. So thank
It
you for your
is.
time.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.